You've worked hard to build a dream retirement. Now it's time to put that plan into action. This is Retire ATL with Aaron Vincent and Matt Decker. The team at Vincent Financial wants to help you build, protect, and grow income to get you to and through retirement. Now, Retire ATL with Aaron Vincent and Matt Decker.
This is the Retire ATL podcast, all powered by the Vincent Financial Group. You can get more when you visit retireatlradio.com. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. Now, let's get to the show. Home office in Woodstock, but you can meet us across Metro Atlanta. I'm nervous, a little anxiety, made some financial mistakes, watching the news, volatile market. So there's a lot rattling going on in my head about my financial future. That very first conversation with you and the team, Aaron, what is it like?
If that's how you're feeling, you're in good company. Yes, our home office is in downtown Woodstock. It's right there on Main Street. It's convenient. We've got kind of free parking. It's easy to get in and out of. Most people that come to our office, even if they come, we just had somebody in the office this week from Vinings. It's like a half an hour drive. And they're like, oh, it sounded like a long way up here in Woodstock, but I'm so glad I came. Most people want that connection. Right. Like if you're going to be talking about your life savings and your 30-plus year retirement and your marriage and your kids and your grandkids and your plans, you don't just want a good X's and O's person. I think we can be that. But also you want to be connected with that person and kind of understand them and make sure that they understand you. And the best place to do that is in our home office. Now, having said that, we got places all across Atlanta we can meet you. We can do a virtual call, which makes it even easier. No traffic issues whatsoever. So it's whatever is easier for you. But if you're feeling nervous, if these chaotic times have kind of got you feeling like I got to do something, you're in good company. Most people, I think, should trust their gut more than they do. It's like one of the lessons I've learned over my life. If I would have just kind of like listened to that intuition and maybe made some adjustments accordingly, or at least sought some advice when I felt that way, I could have avoided a lot of headache and heartache. And so I would say if you're feeling that way, it may be for good reason. Now, the headlines and the reality of all the junk that's forced, in our face all the time these days probably contributes to it. But trust your gut, reach out. Love to talk to you.
And Matt, you say it every week when we talk about that initial consultation. You're not miracle workers, which I think is a great line. Explain why.
Well, I feel like we are miracle workers.
Got to set up.
Depends on what day it is.
He cocked out a little bit on that.
Depends on the day. I've seen some miracles be worked. Let's be real. It just means that, we're going to sit down with you and we're going to, number one, we're going to start with where are you right now? Like, where's your starting point? How much have you saved? How much longer are you going to work? Like, what's your runway look like here? How fast are you already moving? You might already be retired, and that's great. But like, where are you right now? What's your point A? And where are you trying to get to? What's your point B? And our job is not to all of a sudden make your 10-gallon gas tank a 400-gallon gas tank so that you can get to where you want to go. Like, that's not possible. But what we can do is we can show you the quickest, most efficient way to get to where you're going that has the least amount of road hazards along the way. Right. So that's our job. We're kind of like a GPS. We're a guide. Where are you right now? Where are you trying to get to? What's the most efficient way that we can get there? And knowing that if this is a road trip, on each side of the road, there's a ditch. And those ditches actually have names. On the left side, you have greed. And on the right side, you have fear. And our job, more than anything, Aaron talked about the X's and O's. More than anything, while the X's and O's are important, managing emotions is most important, really, because we can get the X's and O's right. But if you are sitting there feeling on fire because something just doesn't feel right, and Aaron talked about trusting your gut, then we haven't done a very good job, because the path that you're taking in retirement, the way that you're going from point A to point B should be an enjoyable ride. It should not feel like your hair's on fire. It should feel like you've got the top down, the sun is shining, and the breeze is in your hair, and you're enjoying the scenery as you go. But if you're constantly falling into one of the ditches on the side of the road, like, we've done a bad job as your planners. And so that's our job. That's how we see it. We can't work miracles. We can't make something out of nothing, but we certainly can keep you on the road, keep you out of the ditches, and get you to where you're going, get you to your destination as efficiently as humanly possible.
One of the things that we find really helpful and kind of gives a lot of our clients kind of that sleep at night factor as much as it can is, and sometimes we get this far even in the first meeting, this part of the conversation, it is to remove the extremes. Like, I think people have such a nightmarish addition of how their retirement could go, which includes like, I'm trying to find a job when I'm 80 years old. because I ran out of money and I got to make ends meet. Some horror story like that. But what we can get to pretty quickly based on how much you saved, how well you saved, what lifestyle you want, kind of where you're going, to Matt's point, at the very least, what we're going to do pretty quick in the process is to remove the extremes. We can show you, we have some really cool pieces of software, some tools that we use that are not inexpensive for us to use, that really help not just define and analyze, but actually show you the reality. We stress test your portfolio to remove the extreme. I haven't even built your portfolio that you would have with us yet, but what we're showing you is based on what you've done so far in your saving and investing years, removing the extremes. So at the very least, we can say, even if we stress test it for market volatility and interest rates and inflation and healthcare costs and all the threats, we can remove the extremes so that you going back to work when you're 80 isn't even a remote concern to you anymore. So let's remove those major what if scary things. And now let's begin to hone it into, but what is possible for you, and building that. And the bigger the window you have, if you're wanting to retire next week, okay, not a problem. Or if you're already retired, we can still work with that. Or if you've got 3 or 4 or 5 years before you plan to retire, we can make some pretty significant adjustments and move the needle on what is possible for you in a big way. But getting the kind of the parameters and the edges kind of cleaned up so that you're not leaving the office worried about kind of the what if, removing the extremes is big.
Yeah, we can definitely provide clarity there. 770-741-0120 is the number. Give us a call. Hopefully we get to meet you in the home office there in Woodstock, right off Main Street. We can have all these conversations, figure out who you are, where you're going, and what's the best way to get there. But Aaron, you mentioned stress testing. I thought it might be helpful to give an example. So like one of the ways that we stress test is we take your current portfolio, where you are right now, and we say, look, if we change nothing, status quo, right? We change absolutely nothing, and we make it so that you're retiring right before the 2008 crash, like the worst possible timing that you could have, right? Because you can't control what the market's going to do. I can't, Aaron can't, Mark can't, no one can. You can't either. You can't control what the market's going to do. And just being at the whim of bad timing, being subject to bad timing, can have a huge impact on your retirement. So we show you, hey, if nothing changes and things go really well, you can spend $10,000 a month, Mr. and Mrs. Client. How does that feel? Well, that feels pretty good. That's workable. Like, we can do that. Okay, great. Well, what's the one thing we can't control? We can't control what the market's going to do. So we're going to show you how much you could spend if we started retirement at that $10K a month that we're telling you can do. And then all of a sudden, 2008 happens again, and you lose 38% in your portfolio, in your equities portfolio. What's that going to do to your retirement? And most people are like, well, it means that I lose, like I'm done for. That's what most people think. That's the what if. That's the I can't see, touch, or feel what happens if things go wrong. Therefore, I'm living in fear. And that makes total sense. So we try to bring clarity there. And we run people through this stress test and we say, okay, well, here's what it would look like. You retire in early or late 2007, 2008 hits, and instead of spending $10,000 a month, we're going to have to adjust your income down to $8,000 a month to make sure that you never run out of money and still leave dollars behind. How does that feel? And most people say, oh, well, I mean, I don't like that it's less, but I was imagining a world where I'm eating cat food. And so $8,000 a month is a whole heck of a lot better than I'm broke and having to go get a job at 80. And we're like, right, exactly. And this is what we check in on every single 90 days to make sure that we're staying up to date, we're tracking performance, we're looking at any adjustments that we might need to make in your income spending to make sure that you're not broke and having to go back to get a job at 80. So that's a stress test. When we go through that, we can visibly see the anxiety leave and the peace begin to set in. And normally it looks like a big exhale and like a drop in their shoulders. They're like, okay, that makes sense to me. Now I see this isn't a pass-fail scenario. This is a you watch it, we watch it together, and we make adjustments along the way. And if you've never had that experience, you need to call our office, 770-741-0120.
And so once that groundwork is laid, which is a lot of fun, by the way, having those conversations and providing that exhale, it's a really good meeting. We're laughing. Sometimes we're crying together. It's good stuff. But that lays the groundwork for us to then now have the opportunity to talk kind of tactical things moving forward. Well, if you don't like the discrepancy of that portfolio, 08 happens, your income dropped by 20%, in Matt's example from $10,000 a month to $8,000 a month. Well, what might we do in your portfolio over the next period of time before you do retire to make that even more insulated? Are there some advice that we could give? Are there some changes that we could make now upstream of any of those changes that can actually make your income drop be less if 08, 09 did happen again? And
That'd be nice.
Yeah. So now we're talking about proactive ways to prevent whatever the stress test is. Maybe it's the markets of 08. Maybe it's, I think tax rates are going to hike in my lifetime. I'm going to have less spendable income because more is going to go to Uncle Sam.
Great. Could be more inflation.
Inflation, interest rates, who's president. We could go on and on about the different stressors and stress tests, but this framework from that first meeting provides the context to have conversations about tactical adjustments. Mm-hmm. What should we do different in your portfolio if that's your concern? And that gets really fun because now we can allow people to see around the corner, as it were. Now they can know all these different stressors, all these different what if scenarios, all these different, and it could even be, those are the stressors, or it could also, we can build in, hey, I know, like I've got 2 daughters personally and 1 son, and I know I've got 3 colleges, I've also got 2 weddings, I got to buy 3 cars, all this stuff. You can build those what ifs, those stressors into your retirement plan as well, certain costs. And so now you can see around the corner of what life might look like in 10 years or 15 years or in 20 years. And you can see that and you can feel that and you can taste that, to Matt's point earlier. And now you can kind of know what it's going to be like to be retired and know what it's going to be like to be retired during those tumultuous times. And now guess what you have? The freedom to make a decision based on real facts, not what headlines you read or not what your brother-in-law says or not what happened in the past, but real facts. And so that freedom, that removing the sort of the stress and the anxiety of the unknown to a certain extent, it's life-giving. It's why I love what we do. I do love building portfolios. I do love meeting with clients and helping them sort of make these decisions. But what I really love is to see someone be free to live the life that they're called to or that they want to live, free from the different what-ifs that hold them back. That is a good day.
It's almost like you're driving down the road. It's the early morning, and it's one of those mornings where there's just fog everywhere. And you may know this road. You may drive it every single day. But when you can only see 20 or 30 yards ahead of you, like I live kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and there's deer everywhere. And all the roads by me, they're like 45-mile-per-hour roads, right? So you can move on those roads. No one's out.
Matt drives like 65 on those.
I mean, I get moving. I get going.
But on his phone, reading the paper, putting his makeup on, all driving 70 miles an hour.
Exactly.
Coffee.
Trying to do everything all at once, and I'm loving life. But when there's a bunch of fog on the road, I'm driving like 20 miles an hour because I don't want to be the guy that hits the deer at 6:30 a.m. because he was driving too fast. But as soon as that fog lifts, I'm back to cruising. Mm-hmm. I'm back to cruising. And that's kind of what retirement looks like. When you just have a stockpile of dollars, you've saved up $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, and you're trying to flip that switch from earning money and saving money to distributing that money to yourself. That's the money that you're going to live on for the rest of your life. If you haven't had the conversation around stressors, market losses, inflation, if you haven't seen what big expenses in retirement can do to your spending power, you're literally driving around in the fog, and that's stressful. And it's not fun. And you can't go as fast as you'd like. You don't get to see the sights the way that you normally would. And the minute that you're able to provide context for how much you've saved, where you're going, and what can move the needle to the positive or negative direction, once you know what the factors are, all of a sudden the fog starts to lift. And it gets a whole heck of a lot more fun to navigate retirement because you can, as Aaron said, you can kind of see around the corner. And that's where you get to plan fun trips for the family. That's where you get to actually do that kitchen remodel and not be like, is this a mistake? I feel like it is, but I have no way to measure it. No, you can actually measure it and make a good decision. So again, I just encourage you. I know most of you haven't had this level of a conversation. I just know that you haven't, because when people come into the office, they leave saying, I've never had this type of a conversation before. That's just our experience. Mm-hmm. Call the office, 770-741-0120. We will engage in that conversation with you, and I promise it'll be worth your time.
Aaron, Matt, there was an op-ed in the New York Times from economist Richard Bookstaber.
Huh? Yeah. That's unfortunate.
That's an unfortunate name. I hope he is a big guy and a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Because if your name is Bookstaber growing up.
Would you rather be Bookstaber or Book Burner?
Oh, Bookstabber.
Yeah.
Richard said the next financial crisis could be more severe than '08. He said it's not one big problem. It's multiple risks colliding at the same time. We're talking geopolitics, private credit, AI. So, gentlemen, for an adult 5 years from retirement, is this a real warning or is all of this just noise?
I love these statements. I love them because it's like,
I love to hate them.
yeah, hey, it could be. It could be bigger than 2008. Well, yeah, of course it could be. Like, what are we talking about here? Of course it could be. And then you list the stressors. Aaron, we've talked a lot about the montage. You remember the montage?
Oh, yeah, I do.
You want to tell everybody about the montage?
Yeah, I forget where we were. There was a presentation being given. Mm-hmm. It was something in, financial expert right up on stage. And
economist, I think.
Economist, yeah. And he was reading these headlines. And it was headlines of, fuel prices through the roof, going to bankrupt America, and interest rates all over the place. War in the Middle East, and market volatility is on the rise, and are you going to be safe? And it was all these headlines, and it was. He rattled them off like one after the other. It was pretty impressive, just bam, bam, bam. And then he asked for a show of hands in the crowd. Like
he was flashing them on the screen too. Right, they were like actual newspaper headlines.
Yeah, he said these were headlines from newspapers and from kind of magazines. And he asked for people to guess from the crowd what year these were from. And everybody was like, oh, definitely '08, this year, COVID 2020, and all the guesses were like in the past 10 or 15 years. And then he, the next slide sort of showed all the different ones that he just read off. And all of them were from the 70s, I think.
Yeah.
70, like 50 years ago. And his point was just that it's the same thing, rinse and repeat. It's the same shouting from the media, the same headlines, the same nonsense. It's not nonsense. It could be true, but the same stuff weaponized against us to become nonsense, to stir up fear and anxiety and greed. And so, little food for thought here. If you are getting fed fear and what ifs and all of the negative emotions that come from that, guess what's coming next? Something they're trying to sell you to ease your fear and your angst and your anxiety. And so why would media headlines and why would news articles and newspapers and magazines do this? Because they want you to buy whatever is in between those pages in the ads that are going to make you feel better. And so,
or they just want your eyeballs. If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
But the point is the same headlines that were used in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s or the 90s are the same ones being used now. And that's why this is laughable at best to me.
He took it one step further too on the stage. So he started with newspaper clips and then he moved to audio video. And so he had actual video clips of news anchors, going through kind of their opening little headline statements. And I think he had something like 15 or 20 years of actual news clips. And so it's all kinds of different anchors from all kinds of different kind of eras. And they're literally saying the exact same things. So you see the clip from like 1986, and they're saying, inflation fears make the worst month in March since the great whatever.
Right.
And then he shows another clip from 30 years later. And it's like a new person in a different, in a spiffier suit with like higher def cameras. And you can tell it's, 30 years later, inflation fears make March the worst since whatever. And you're like, whoa. That was the exact same lead-in. That was the exact same headline. And he's like, yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same lead-in.
I saw this
exact same headline.
Just this week. It was on the stocks app in my phone. It was like this headline that was like, markets drop in the worst turmoil day since February. It's like a month ago, right? It's like, come on, people. And so the whole point of this, could there be several factors colliding to create a financial storm worse than '08? Yes, it's possible.
And there always are.
And guess what? It also might not be. The next 10 years might be the best 10 years in the economy we've ever seen, ever. That's equally as possible as this one. What's the last article you read about that one?
Haven't read it.
The last article that you read that said, hey guys, the next 10 years might be awesome. This might be a great time to retire. You might have some smooth sailing and a lot of fun in your portfolio for the next 10 years. That's equally as possible as all the stuff that we read every day, and yet you never hear about it. So what's the point? The point is, I don't want to say it doesn't matter. I almost went too far, Matt. I almost went too far.
I wish you would go too far.
It doesn't even matter. But for some people, for a lot of our clients, it really doesn't matter. What I mean by that is, sure, does market volatility matter? Do income tax rates matter? It matters, but it might not matter for the ability for you to mitigate risk in your income in retirement. It may not matter at all. Your lifestyle may not have to be influenced like this doom and gloom at all. And you can know what these threats, how they impact your livelihood, your lifestyle, your income, your spending in retirement.
It might matter if you stick your head in the sand.
Yeah.
If you stick your head in the sand and you just, hey, same old, what worked back then is going to work today, okay, then it might matter, but it doesn't have to matter. Aaron talks all the time about building a durable portfolio. That's what we're talking about. If you have a durable portfolio that grows when the market grows, it has some safety when the market is pretty choppy and pretty risky.
And most important of all, you've got someone in your corner watching it for you during that time.
Then you have a durable portfolio. You've got dry powder on the sidelines. Like you can maneuver through anything that gets thrown your way. But if you're just going to sit and watch the news and fall prey to the headlines and make no changes, make no future plans, because like, why even make them? Because if it's worse than 2008, then I just know that I'm doomed and I guess I'm just along for the ride. Well, then, yeah. That's not a good place to be.
And you might also die 10 years early from all the stress it puts on your body.
Exactly.
Or guess what? It might all work out.
Right. If you'd like to see your actual situation, you'd like to see it stress tested, you want to sit down with someone who's going to actually engage in this level of a conversation. Where are you right now? Where are you trying to go? How do we build a durable portfolio to shelter you from all the noise and headlines that you're seeing? You got to call the office, 770-741-0120. This is literally how we've built our whole business. Everyone that leaves thanks us and lets us know, like, this was great. I learned a lot. Thank you so much. Take advantage. 770-741-0120.
Insurance products are offered through the Insurance Business Advanced Planning Group. Vincent Financial Group is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Advanced Planning Group are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Advanced Planning Group and IPW are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be constructed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Vincent Financial Group is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained by sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Vincent Financial Group. This podcast is a paid placement.